Having just made first contact with the Lucari, we'd love to stick around and see through all the exploration and diplomatic ties that are to emerge, especially with such a previously withdrawn race, but unfortunately we have bigger concerns. We leave the Lucari to the Federation Diplomatic Corps and set off in pursuit of the Tholians, who have stolen the Tox Uthat from Kal Dano, a time traveller from the 31st century. This device is a quantum phase inhibitor that can control and alter the life cycle of stars, used to repair the Lucari sun, but it could also be used to end one. We've already crossed paths with it, but because of time travel, we've encountered its journey out of order.
The Tox Uthat has fallen into the hands of the Tholians. Our intelligence indicates increased Tholian activity in the Nakul system. Kal Dano believes they are trying to interfere with the Nakul in the present because of actions they will take in the future. Kal Dano has asked you to rendezvous with him in the Nakul system.
The Nakul will become major antagonists in the Temporal Cold War. However, that's not until the 29th century, over 300 years from now. The Nakul of this day have yet to get involved in that line of research, let alone pose any sort of true threat. They have proven to be rather xenophobic, but not expansionist in any way, and Starfleet policy seems to have been to just leave them alone. The Nakul system is one of many, many terrestrial worlds and moons, so they've got plenty of ground to cover, which may explain their isolationist attitude. They don't really need to expand. They are unusual in that they have iridium-based blood, meaning that they dislike strong sunlight, and the only trade they engage with seems to be discreet deals with the Breen, but even that intel is spotty.
Good to see you again. Thank you for responding to my message so quickly. The Tholians have the quantum phase inhibitor. I've tracked their ship to this system, and I'm detecting some telltale quantum fluctuations within the star. They're trying to use the device. We need to stop them and recover it. First, however, we need to help the Nakul. At this point in their history, they're not prepared to repel a Tholian attack.
Well, neither were you, apparently. Sorry, that was mean. We can see that the Tholians are indeed in the system and swarming around near the orbit of the Nakul homeworld, which we're just going to call Nakul Prime, because we don't have the local name for it yet. The fact that the sun still remains is thanks to the Tholians still trying to figure out how to work the inhibitor, but the longer we leave them to it, the greater the risk, and as we close in, the Nakul homeworld hails us.
Unidentified vessel, you have entered our space without authorization. If you are an ally of the Tholians, leave now. We have done nothing to provoke their attacks, but we will defend ourselves.
Actually, Starfleet's here to help out. Unless you insist we go, we could.
Thank you. My people have few warships. Any assistance you could provide against the Tholians would be appreciated.
Righto. We'll explain after we've driven them back. But with the invitation accepted, we move into the system proper to engage the Tholian forces. Kal Dano, seemingly eager to make up for his loss of face earlier, joins us in the battle. The smaller skirmishing vessels are fast but fragile, and we plough right through one of the spinner ships. Kal Dano's smaller time ship, barely larger than a shuttle from the outside, seems to be faring much better now. I have little idea how 31st century technology works, but clearly he's doing much better than last time, even though the Tholians continue to try to capture his vessel in a tractor beam web. Soon the last vessel with this vanguard is the more robust Orb Weaver, but with the combined fire of our two ships, even that falls. In the lull of combat, the Nakul contact us once again.
We appreciate your assistance. It is not often that we encounter a species willing to risk their lives for another. We are still detecting Tholian ships near our star, as well as some unusual quantum fluctuations. It's as if the star's nuclear fusion is decaying at an increased rate.
Yes, that would be from the quantum phase inhibitor that they stole from us. They're trying to decay your star for some reason. Clearly the Tholians have some issue with you. Yeah, but who don't the Tholians have issues with, am I right? Yeah? What are you scowling at me?
So this is your fault?
Oh.
Why would you make such a terrible thing? You caused this problem. I expect you to fix it, or we will hold you and your people responsible for the consequences.
Yeah, to be fair, we didn't invent it. It was invented in the far future and brought back here through time travel. We're just trying to get it back from the Tholians, the ones that are, trying to use
I
it.
should have never made that device. I was only focused on the idea, on whether it was possible. I didn't stop to think of all the harm it could do in the wrong hands. We have to stop the Tholians before they shut down the star's fusion. If that happens, the effect on this system will be devastating. The Nakul will lose their home, and life will probably never develop here again.
We set a course at max impulse closer to the star to stop the Tholians and hopefully set this all right.
The lead Tholian ship has the quantum phase inhibitor. They're going to use it on the star. We have to stop them. Board that vessel and get it back.
Cursed Vorgons. If they hadn't chased me, none of this would have happened.
As before, we engage the Tholian ships that break away to intercept us as we close in on the lead vessel. This smaller strike team throws itself at us in order to buy time for the group further ahead to successfully deploy the Tox Uthat.
Might have traced me this time. We'll have to go further into the past to hide the quantum phase inhibitor.
The device is aiming and firing into the sun already, and changes are being detected. We are running out of time. We finish off the group of 7 mesh weavers and head on to confront the final fleet as they fire into the Nakul sun. As we close in, they spring their final trap. A small array of tractor drones appear and encase our vessel in one of their Tholian webs. However, in their haste, it seems they misaligned one of the segments, leaving an opening for us to slip through. Remind me to thank Paris and Delta Flight for those extra flying lessons. We engage the final ship of this interception fleet. The Recluse-class starship is a target here, not the other reinforcements that show up to harry us. The vessel is rather tanky, however, and takes a lot of punishment. We need to get through this to reach the Tox Uthat, but it's taking precious time. But then the worst. Too late.
Oh no! They're using the Tox Uthat!
As we finally deal with our guards, the lead vessel manages to collapse the Nakul's star, and the once bright life-sustaining sun turns the colour of a smouldering coal and dims. We make best possible speed to the vessel, in hopes of disabling it to mount our boarding party. Other vessels are launched to defend the Tholian flagship, but we only need focus on the main one to end this engagement. Here's hoping we can reverse or even time travel our way out of this catastrophe. Our barrage does enough to cripple the Tholian vessel, and we mount our boarding parties. Kal Dano joins us for the action.
We've docked with a Tholian ship. The good news is that my scans indicate the quantum phase inhibitor is on the bridge. All we need to do is go get it. The bad news is that the Tholians know we're here. They're not going to give up without a fight. The Tholians come from an environment that is extremely hazardous to most humanoids. You and your team will need environment suits to survive. Don't forget to equip and activate EV suits before you board the Tholian ship.
We do just that. If you don't have any, never fear, there's a locker of them inside the shuttle. Kal Dano has his own 32nd century suit that is far sleeker yet somehow still resists the 200°C environment that makes up the Tholian Class Y atmosphere. This isn't the first time we've boarded a Tholian ship, but this interior is far dimmer than before, as it looks like their lighting has failed and they're on backup reserves.
Tholians, just as xenophobic and opportunistic in your time as mine.
We deal with the welcoming committee and head on into the depths. The vessels of Tholians are mirrored floors. Every corridor functions as both a ceiling and a floor, as the Tholians have a very different perception of space than humanoids. Intersecting the corridors are larger control hubs that take this design to a whole new level.
We have to be getting closer to the Tox Uthat. Stay alert.
Multiple floors are at angles that almost induce a sense of vertigo if viewed for too long. Due to the game's limitations, however, we never really are able to fight on these surfaces. Shame. It would be trippy.
The bridge should be just ahead.
We enter the bridge and see a force field containing the inhibitor. The Tholian Captain, a large creature, is surrounded by several ensigns who attack us as we approach. The Captain too leaves the force field chamber and proceeds to aid in the attack. Eventually we disintegrate the Captain and tend to our wounded as Dano scans the Tox Uthat.
Now we just need to drop that force field, get the quantum phase inhibitor, and get off the ship before the rest of the Tholians get here to stop us.
We can see the crystalline device and we set about overriding the Tholians' lockouts.
Finally, we have the quantum phase inhibitor. I brought this device through time to hide it from the Vorgons, but I never thought the Tholians would steal it. Now we need to hide it where it will be safe from both of them. Are you ready? This will be a longer trip than you're used to taking.
The device recovered, we transport recall to the shuttle and depart the Tholian ship back to the Armiger.
Set a course for the Ryza system.
Dano, you might want to clear your throat.
Ryza, early 22nd century. Even the tourists won't be in this region for a few years yet. No one will be looking for the quantum phase inhibitor here. Not now, anyway. Let's try that cave up ahead. Looks like a good spot.
Tropical rain. This is before the weather control grids were installed planet-wide. Natural rain on Ryza. Something that's a rarity since the Ryzans wrested control away from Mother Nature to make this planet into a resort. There's a point to be made here, I think, but right now we've got to focus. We locate a small cave forged by water, and Dano seems to think that this will be a safe spot to hide it.
We have to hide the device very well. I can't afford to let it fall into the wrong hands again, and the Vorgons are very persistent.
I'm not sure I agree about the choice of hiding spot, but history seems to be on his side, as we know this is the location where Captain Picard and Vash discover the device in 2366. By the time of the TNG episode, Captain's Holiday, Ryza's environment has been radically altered by the weather grid, and this cave system has dried out. The Tox Uthat being buried under even more layers of sediment over the next 200 years or so maybe it's a better place to stash the device than I gave Dano credit for.
That's it. Someone will find it in a few hundred years, but that's a different story for a different captain. Let's get back to your time. We need to check on the Nakul. Setting course for 2014.
We need to get back to the Nakul.
As we re-enter the system, we do so in the presence of more Tholians.
Return the Tox Uthat, and we will let you live.
Things unfold about as well as you'd expect by now. The Tholians attack, even when we tell them we no longer have the device. Thankfully, Tholians cannot time travel themselves, yet, but to be safe we can't let them stay in this system in case they somehow decipher our temporal course. The Tholians are strangely adept and persistent around matters of space-time manipulation after all.
Meeting! My temporal drive has been damaged!
This is Captain Walker of the USS Pasta. We are responding to a temporal distress call. Do you require assistance?
I think Dano's vessel just... Did the temporal drive misfire? He's gone. The USS Pastak from the 29th century arrives immediately after Dano's distress call. I mean, with time travel, I guess that makes sense. But they first need to deal with the Tholians, who immediately attack them as well. With them on our side, the remaining ships are easily vanquished. However, before they disappear, one manages to open a rift into the mirror universe, as you do, and through come several inquisitive and aggressive Terran frigates that last less time than the Tholians did. I can just imagine them being like, "We're here to conquer your..." balls. So excuse the background fighting as we contact the Nakul.
What happened to our son? What did you do?
Give me a sec. Terran Empire ships. Okay, one crisis at a time. Right. A representative K'tek. We were unable to stop the Tholians from using the device, regrettably. However, we have retrieved it and disposed of it. No one else will ever have to suffer this.
I'm sure that will be a great comfort to our citizens as they freeze to death.
Well, we have time to assist in an evacuation. Starfleet can have ships here within days. If you want us to assist in rescue efforts, we can also start with
You have done quite enough. Leave us alone. Time travelers and malcontents and Tholians. The whole lot of you can fall into a black hole. Now go. We have to figure out how to save our people. And then we'll take steps to protect ourselves. Time is a weapon, and it will never be turned against us again.
I suggest you reach out to the Federation for aid. Contact us if you do change your mind.
This is Captain Benjamin Walker of the USS Postok. I'm responding to an emergency temporal transmission from these space-time coordinates, but we are no longer detecting the source of these transmissions. Did you lose a time traveler?
Okay, yes. Next thing, Kal Dano. His drive was damaged, and it went off. I've got no idea when or where he's gone.
I think you better come aboard while we resolve this. Prepare for transport.
We arrive aboard the timeship. As much as we're aware, it's our first visit, and Captain Walker awaits us. I feel like I'm visiting the headmaster's office. Surely we can fix all this, right?
Greetings. It's nice to see you again.
No, I don't think we've met before. Of course we have, in an alternate timeline that we don't remember.
Not that you remember. We need to scan the continuum for Kal Dano. Would you care to assist me?
Okay, so we retrieve him first, and then we set about restoring the Nakul Sun? Right? We enact a scan of the time stream. Despite it being 29th century tech, these controls are similar to Starfleet styles, and a lot of the calculations are recognisable, and we finally get a pinpoint on his locator in the year 2152.
Were you able to locate Kal Dano?
Yeah, the mid-22nd century, but these readings are strange. There's a lot of interference going on.
Enter the temporal coordinates into the transporter.
Okay. Cool, this transport actually can beam people through time. Nice, alright, we'll lock on and get him out of there. Balls. It appears Kal Dano is dead. In fact, it looks like he's been dead for a while. Well, at least the Tox Uthat is safe, its path through time now complete. Dano was a determined man, even more than just being content in a lab. He actually took to the field with us in order to correct the misuse of his creation. That's certainly one dedicated individual.
What happened with Kal Dano?
He dead and crispy. I think he's been dead for a long time, actually, by the look of it. Did I mess up? Can we try again? Is this how time travel works?
No, this was meant to happen. Kal Dano went further back into the past than you knew. The NX-01 Enterprise, captained by Jonathan Archer, found his ship in the 22nd century, and his chief engineer activated Kal Dano's emergency temporal circuit, which returned the ship to its last known time, this one. But by the time that happened, Kal Dano had been dead for centuries. The Tox Uthat is safe. It was found in the mid-24th century by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who destroyed it before it could be used to harm others.
If this was all meant to happen, then what about the Nakul's sun? Can we reverse this, or did you just bring me here for a lecture on temporal mechanics?
Altering the past causes ripples. The effects move through time, shifting everything they touch, and it may take eons for all of them to be seen. The Nakul will survive, although their homeworld will be lost. They will become time travelers themselves, and their actions in the temporal Cold War shaped the galaxy you now know. There are some things you shouldn't change, that you can't change.
The temporal Cold War, when does this all happen? Because we're already seeing the effects of it.
You could check Captain Archer's old logs for more information, but you will know all about it soon enough. You are entering a dangerous era in history. Time travel like warp drive before it will radically change your society. I'll see you again. We have a lot to do.
Captain Walker, until next time then, I guess I'll leave Dano to you. With that, we make ready to return to the Armiger. I feel like Walker bringing me aboard this ship and making us look for Dano was to illustrate a point. Time travel is a confusing mess that sometimes causes changes, sometimes branches off whole new realities, and sometimes has already completed itself in predestination paradoxes. Every Starfleet officer is aware of these, but knowing how to identify which one you're dealing with and have the data to observe all the outcomes, well, that's what defines a temporal agent. This felt like a slap on the wrist to reinforce the notion that we are not exempt from that web that time spins.
This is a sad day for the Federation. We failed to save the Nakul system, and our friend from the future, Kal Dano, is dead. I know you did everything you could. Sometimes, especially when we venture into time travel, things must play out a certain way. So, at least the timeline has been preserved. Captain Picard can now find the Tox Uthat on Risa in the 24th century. Still, let us mourn for Kal Dano and the Nakul people.
The Tox Uthat will get buried even more with the times, as Risa is changed until Picard finds it, and we have history unfolding as it always has, through the efforts of those who sought to both change and uphold events. We're just one piece of this. Seemingly as important as we are now, our path is already written in history, and the temporal agencies that make sure we stick to our scripted roles, well, are they not acting as fate? I can understand now why some opposed the temporal accords. I don't agree, but I understand. Thanks for watching this episode of the Story series, and I hope to see you back next time as we continue to delve into the ever-changing narrative of Star Trek Online. Thanks again for watching. I've been Rick, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.